Good evening and welcome back for another video. For wherever you are, wherever you're listening, good morning, good afternoon and good evening. So today we'll do a roundup. I didn't get a chance to make a video today, so we'll cover a number of different articles. If you haven't had a chance to read it yourself, we'll go over it as usual. So just to start off, today's bit of news, interesting bit of news. Crypto platform Tron hires former SEC attorney as first chief of compliance. We're starting to see this. It makes sense. Companies are employing people who know what steps a company needs to do to get regulation in certain areas. So, blockchain platform Tron has hired a former United States Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) supervisory attorney as its first chief compliance officer, so CCO. The company has revealed this to Cointelegraph in a press release on 9th of January. No real surprise here. If you're a company and you are serious about what you're trying to do and you want to establish yourself as a big player, a whale, you need the right people in your company, the right people in the board of directors. There was a bank, which I'll not name which bank it is or was, that was going through some legal issues with the United States. And what did they do? They appointed a chief legal officer. And where did that chief legal officer used to work? For the United States government under the Bush and Obama regime. So, if banks do this, there's no difference from cryptocurrencies companies or people like XRP or Ripple, XRP or Tron doing it. Similarly, if you look at the board of directors on within Ripple, you will see people who are littered with history of government roles, so possibly SEC. We do know there are people on the SEC who actually sit on the advisory board, I believe, for XRP, for Ripple. And the idea is, it's very, very simple. We want to get ahead and we need somebody to help us who's gone through the process. And as you're seeing, a lot of crypto exchanges are struggling to get approval for Bitcoin ETF, and that's just a simple Bitcoin, as in an ETF. So it's not like it's very, very complicated. It's one ETF they're trying to get access to. God only knows what's going to be when they ask for something more complicated. So, Ethereum ETF, a Litecoin ETF, an EOS ETF. So, it's very good practice to make you move ahead, and it seems quite positive that a company like Tron, which has seen as boasting partnerships which don't seem to come or fulfill its potential from when Justin Sun sends out a tweet about partnering with the biggest company in China or the biggest company in the US, and it often appears that they've just bought some cloud computing from Beidou. So it makes perfect sense that trying to do this. It makes sense that other cryptocurrencies will do this. It's only going to push their further into the hands of the big whales, the big investors, especially when there's a bit more security in the company. Now, and obviously Tron, if we look at the market cap, is sitting number 8, and that's pretty good for a company which at the moment hasn't really delivered much in terms of just buying BitTorrent, promising fast transactions, but no real world solutions at the moment. I understand there are some dApps on its platform and some games that they do have, but for a coin which is working on at the moment up till now almost in hype, it has a market cap of $1.9 billion, 24-hour volume of $266 million, and it's up actually 13%. And whether this is on the news of the SEC or the fact that the BitTorrent news, the dApps news, and even if you look at the 24-hour volume, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's pretty good in terms of 24-hour volume for a currency which is only around 3 cents. If you think about the next currency above it, which is XRP, which has got about, I would say, 50% more volume than Tron, and it's valued obviously a lot higher than that. So they're really pushing a lot of currency out at the moment. So interesting to see how this plays out and what other companies decide to do something similar, like Ethereum, Litecoin, Stellar, EOS, IOTA, and then some of the other smaller altcoins on the actual coin market cap. So yeah, we'll see what this does for the price of Tron over the next couple of weeks or months. But again, I think Tron is one of those projects which will remain. Interesting to see what price it will hit. I'm not actually predicting any sort of price of Tron. I've not looked deeply into Tron's projects and what's coming up. It is often, like I said, the CEO and founder Justin Sun always tweets out. So apologies. He always tweets out stuff which is not always correct in its truth. So yeah, very interesting article, and we shall move on. Yeah, the next article is from BitConnect to SimSwap, swindling 2018's biggest scams. So obviously we know all about BitConnect and the character, which I cannot remember his name, Carlos something, from BitConnect, who would shout, BitConnect. I think we all know that famous video, and it's probably been memed all over the place and back and forth. And I almost feel sorry for him in a way. I think everybody around him was telling him it's a scam, whether he knew it or not. I think apparently his wife was telling him it was a scam, and I think she ended up leaving him. So the reason I want to talk about this article is not about the fact that we had so many scams in 2018, and this article talks about the fact that there was around $20 billion worth of money invested into ICOs last year, and obviously a lot of that would be Ethereum. That we need to be careful of 2019 scams and 2020 scams, and however big the market gets, the more scams which will be prevalent. So, when everything's hyped up, there'll always be scams floating around it. And for example, there was a person in the UK who recently just won 130 million pounds, and apparently there's a fake Facebook page set up or YouTube page set up there. If they got 10,000 subscribers, they would be donating the money out. And obviously people are not necessarily losing anything monetary, but they're wasting their time subscribing to this, watching these videos, while somebody else is profiting from information which is not correct, and information is not there, and whether they were going to start donating money out to people who had been subscribed. The idea is scams exist, and BitConnect is one which is going to live long in the memory of 2017 into 2018, where it finally died when they had a cease and desist order from the US government, or a part of the US government, and we all need to be careful. So please, when you're looking at ICOs, and there'll probably be more ICOs or STOs this year and next year, or wherever projects where people are asking you to invest in something, look at the white paper. Now, if you don't want to look at the white paper, then try and find videos and documents and articles from reputable places about that cryptocurrency. Things where people, guarantee returns, guarantee this. Nobody can guarantee you anything. The only place you can get guaranteed returns is if you stick your money into high interest savings account, and they guarantee you a 0.01% return on your savings, and that's normally a bank, and it's such a low amount that they can afford to guarantee you this. You're not going to be guaranteed 18% return every year on a $10,000 investment. It doesn't work like that. So please do your research into what coins you're investing in. We expect 2019, 2020 will be the years of coins without real world solutions, and I keep saying this over and over again, will disappear. Coins are already disappearing. Projects aren't being updated because the funding is is reducing. We earlier end of last year, November time, Ethereum Classic mentioned one of the big dev teams that they've run out of funding, so they're going to shut down or shutting down for a while. They asked for donations, and they weren't forthcoming. So there will be more scams. Please look out for them. Don't just go to Facebook and see this coin is better than Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else, and invest in us, and we'll give you this and you'll get this back. Be very diligent in terms of what you're putting your money into. We're all very, very careful when we get text messages from scammers posing to be your bank or this or that and asking you to log into your details, and we know it's a scam, and we're very proud of ourselves that who would fall for these, but people do fall for crypto scams because it's a way to get rich, and BitConnect was one which will live long because people lost a lot of money investing into BitConnect. I watched one video where somebody had said he had invested $30,000 into BitConnect to only see it the next morning where it went down to wherever it was, about 0.01 or 0.1 of a dollar. So there were people shilling this. I don't know what that word means actually. People were promoting this coin and saying they've invested this much money of Bitcoin and they've made this much Bitcoin back, and it was almost like you put nothing in and you get everything out, and that itself should just ring alarm bells in someone's head in terms of this is a scam, I'm not going to invest in this. And when they show you all these charts and graphs and all this nonsense, please be very, very careful of where you put your money. We don't want crypto to become a wild west. We need better understanding, better protection, and that starts with protecting ourselves. Some people have had come to me and said, what do you think of this cryptocurrency project? What do you think of this? And I get funny when as soon as I see on the white paper guaranteed returns or returns of this much, and I've never seen XRP promise that. I've never seen EOS promise that. Even though that Tron has always been known as to put out social media tweets about random stuff. They don't promise these things. They're serious companies. So yeah, please research the papers, watch videos, cross-reference, do what you can, but please don't get scammed. So look out for any more dodgy people from 2019 onwards. And we'll move on to the next video. So something moving into a part of the world which we probably have never spoken about on this channel, but a very interesting one. So Pakistan Telenor subsidiary launches remittance service using Alipay's blockchain tech. So the Pakistan-based subsidiary of global telecommunications giant Telenor has launched a blockchain-powered cross-border remittance service, according to the press release published 8th of Jan. Per the announcement, the Pakistan-based Telenor Microfinance Bank (TMB) Value, a Malaysian fintech subsidiary of Telenor, and Telenor's Easy Pesa have Easy Pesa, I think Pesa is the currency, means money, I think, have jointly launched a blockchain international remittance service in Pakistan. So I think the next part is not the relevant. The main part is this part. The new service is reportedly geared to significantly increase the speed of efficiency of remittance between Pakistan and Malaysia, or Malaysia and Pakistan. Pakistan currently receives about $1 billion in home remittance from Malaysia, according to Senior Vice President of Telenor Financial Services. So, very, very good news. I mean, Pakistan is not the most richest country in the world, but Malaysia is very well developed. So, it's good to see countries which we wouldn't normally talk about using the blockchain technology in terms of sending money or remittance to each other, and hopefully using it in terms of faster payment transfers, and able to monitor and have it on a ledger or have it on a system which will never be removed. And hopefully we'll see more of this, of countries or companies even using blockchain powered tech, and hopefully there will be things like XRapid and other cryptocurrency based tokens for money transfer. So I don't want to spend too much time on this article because obviously there's not too much here, but again, when countries are open to using the blockchain technology and the governments aren't stopping it or are allowing it to go through, then certainly good news. I mean, we had in the whole hype of it in 2017, the Sharia side of Islam, basically, who were saying that Bitcoin and all this was forbidden in those countries, and it meant like there was a big portion of those countries which potentially wouldn't have the chance to get hold of these cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology, saying that it was not allowed or because it had no intrinsic value. But it was argued, and I think the fact that you could argue the same thing about gold or even money itself. There's no intrinsic value in money. It's just a piece of paper. If you take, for example, the dollar, it was linked to gold in the 1970s, but I believe it was Watergate scandal dude. I can't remember his name now. Anyway, so they went into Vietnam and they kind of detached gold from dollar. So dollar became no value. So I think, ultimately the country collapsed or the US government collapsed. I mean, there were loads of issues. One of those issues would be no money. Money would be worthless and then you would have hyperinflation, just like you do in places like Venezuela and Argentina. So the fact they lifted this ban in those countries means countries such as Dubai and Qatar and Saudi and all the other UAE states can implement blockchain and cryptocurrency. And obviously we know that there's a strong link between Dubai and Ripple now, but they've set up an office in Dubai. So very good news to hear, very, very positive news again from the markets we're seeing. And let's move on to the next article. An article that we've got here is echoing a lot of sentiment about countries and what they are trying to do on cryptocurrency and trying to take control. So this is from Ukraine. So over-regulation prevents crypto development, says central bank official. And then that just makes me think of the United States constantly. So over-regulation in Ukraine is reportedly preventing the cryptocurrency industry from evolving in the country. An official of the Ukrainian Central Bank NBU told to his local crypto news outlet Let Know Tuesday 8th of January. So Mikhail Vidyakin, the Director of Strategy and Reform Department of NBU, believes there are too many institutions in the country that have the authority to regulate cryptocurrencies. Now, regulation, and I've mentioned in previous videos, is good as long as it is trying to angle itself as a consumer and protect the consumer. But when a country or a government wants to take control of a cryptocurrency because they're worried about their own currency or worried about control, then it's only going to stifle performance and development and innovation. People are not going to want to come to that country and set up teams or projects or companies or offices there, or knowing that this is going to be heavily regulated. And we know this from the United States now. So the article I spoke about the other day, where Kraken spoke in 2018, they had something like 425 or 475 subpoenas from the US government, the governments, I should say, and a big part of that was from the US government. There's, what's stopping Kraken moving out to, again, Malta or Switzerland, where they can continue to develop? And there might be a lot of Ukrainian startups who are looking to revolutionize that country or improve something worldwide, and they can't get off the ground because there's too many regulations in the way, and regulations sometimes cost money. I'm not saying AML and KYC. For the ones you don't know what that is, AML is anti-money laundering and KYC is know your customer. The idea really about that is all of regarding money laundering and terrorism. They want to know who this person is, what money they have, where their money's come from, and really what they're going to be doing with their money. Banks obviously need to use this and implement this, but whether cryptocurrencies should be following the same model is up for debate generally within the community. But with all that comes money and implementation, and a lot of the small startups don't have that. Imagine if you were Steve Jobs in the 80s, or Bill Gates, and you had all these regulations around you, and you were literally a guy in a garage building a machine. They would have never got off the ground. Apple would have got nowhere. Microsoft would have got nowhere. And again, yes, we do need regulation, but we need tailored regulation specifically for cryptocurrency. And I don't mean a stupid bit license that they tried to introduce in New York around 2010-ish time, when they were trying to implement cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin in New York. We need proper thought after regulations for cryptocurrency, which don't stifle innovation, don't prevent companies from revolutionizing certain industries or aspects of our life, but protect the end consumer. And there's nothing wrong with that part of it. What we don't want to see is government just saying we're banning cryptocurrency, and then everyone's holding cryptocurrency, or we're going to use our one coin. So this person's absolutely right. Absolutely. If countries like Ukraine, which is not going to be the most richest country in the world, can open its arms to crypto, then they would then profit. And we're seeing that with Japan, and again Malta and Switzerland, and even South Korea. Imagine if tomorrow China said, all right, we've implemented these regulations, but we're not going to stifle the exchanges in China, or people buying cryptocurrency, exchanging with cryptocurrency. Imagine how much money that would bring into the market. How many positive things would happen with China in terms of pushing it even further. How much money would come into the cryptocurrency market? It would open up a massive floodgate of just money coming in, where money would just be flowing. And we know people in China are eager. I think they did a poll where 40% of people would invest in crypto. I think there was a poll of 5,000 people in China. So yes, we know this. I mean, it's clear to see that over-regulation is stifling the market somewhat. If the new players can't come in, or the ones which are already there can't get their products off the ground, or even simple things, and we go back to the Bitcoin ETF, or the CFTC approval. Back waiting for CFTC approval. Yes, of course, they need to be approvals. Sometimes need to be done, especially when it comes to exchanges. But 4 years for an ETF for one cryptocurrency it's ridiculous. It just would never happen in normal industry. And if they're trying to use the same again model on cryptocurrencies, it's just not going to work, and America will fall behind, because another country will take it on. And we spoke about Japan, supposedly talking about cryptocurrencies. So, but I just wanted then to speak about that, because that takes me into my next article about Japan's financial regulator denies interest in Bitcoin ETF. So clearly, obviously, a complete contradiction from the article the other day about sources telling Bloomberg that Japan are looking at an ETF. Now, I wouldn't say they wouldn't deny it. They probably would, because they may not be ready for an announcement just yet, and they may not be working on hype. But I'm sure a lot of countries are probably looking at this, and if they're not, then I don't know what else they're doing. I mean, cryptocurrency is probably the most important thing in the last couple of years or few years, which has really hit the mainstream, and you get all the normal newspapers in the UK talking about cryptocurrency every so often, when it's good and when it's bad. The newspapers that no one really cares about talk about it. So there's a lot of interest, and governments will be thinking, how can they profit from this? So Japan Financial Services Agency has denied it's considering allowing a Bitcoin ETF. as Cointelegraph, blah blah blah. The agency also told Cointelegraph Japan that they do not know who the person familiar with the matter cited by Bloomberg is. So, and it said at the moment we're not exploring approval for ETFs-based crypto assets. I'm sure they are, but they have nothing to report. So, just like this happening in the States, other countries are looking at this, and people are probably applying for ETFs in their region. And like I said, it only takes one country to come out and say, yes, we're going to allow an ETF of Bitcoin, and then you'll watch other countries just come in and try and do it, quickly try and come in and either swoop them, beat them to the race of doing it, or be second. And I've spoken to I remember speaking to a couple of traders about they were setting up a new trading desk, and I asked them a question about how come you guys are not using Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, and they said, and this is exactly their words, we don't want to be the first ones to do it. So everybody is looking at it possibly. Nobody wants to be the first person, and we know for back, that'll possibly be the first one, but behind back, whether we know is Goldman Sachs is still waiting around to see what happens with back, Fidelity, and you've got New York Stock Exchange and other sort of exchanges or hedge funds or whatever, private equity firms looking at cryptocurrency. So I'll take this article with a pinch of salt, and we'll see and keep a close eye on Japan and its ETF, and expect some more news in the next couple of weeks or if not months. And for my last article, it's our ETC friend. So I spoke about this the other day, about this possible 51% attack. Ethereum Classic Foundation came out and said, no, it's not a 51% attack. Don't panic, type thing. But again, I think from the back of Coinbase's research, they then halted payments to in and out. So losses stemming from an ongoing 51% attack against Ethereum Classic have now breached the $1 million barrier, according to updated figures published by cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase. So I think this one to talk about the fact that Ethereum Classic project or foundation are still denying it was a 51% attack and are claiming that it was greedy miners, I think it said, which I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Money was stolen, $88,000, or at the start was stolen. In fact, it was the attacker absconded with 54,200 ETC, worth around $200,000 at the current exchange rate. Notably, the exchange advised Ethereum Classic to adopt a radical change from proof of work consensus to proof of stake to prevent similar incidences from occurring in the future. So, again, just going over what I said the other day, look at where your money is, look at volume of a currency, look at what's upcoming for this project. And unfortunately, I've held Ethereum Classic before, and I will openly say, and not financial advice, I decided to sell my Ethereum Classic on the basis that they lost a lot of key developers, or key developers stopped developing for ETC, and that kind of thought got my alarm bells ringing that what's going to happen to this project. Now, it's on Coinbase. I don't know why it's on Coinbase. If someone can tell me why it's on Coinbase, maybe we'll just stick it on there so we don't need to stick XRP on there because it's easy. It was a fork originally, and they made Ethereum and Ethereum Classic a hard fork. I don't really know what projects they're doing, and if we looked at the market itself for Ethereum Classic, it now sits at number 18. The price is steady regardless of the attack, and let's let's put this attack into perspective. There have been attacks before. Banks get hacked. This happens. But the whole thing about Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is so popular is, in its 10-year history, never been compromised. And Ethereum Classic sits with in a reasonable $109 million 24-hour volume, but and it sits as a $500 million company. I don't know if it's going to survive generally long term. I don't know what projects, what it has in store, what it's going to do, where it's going to push itself up the rankings or increase its price. It's a currency which has been around for a while yet. It's it could potentially be a good buy. For some may think that. I personally do not think that. And again, not financial advice. I would rather put my money, which is what I did, out of ETC into currencies which, again, that famous few words, real world solution coins. And that's kind of where my strategy for 2019 is. It's coins which can do things and which will change things and which will benefit people using it. So yes, we'll move on to one last article that I just remembered about I wanted to talk about. Sorry, there was one article I wanted to speak about. I can't seem to find the actual context behind it, but if I can, I'll link it in the description below. But it was basically somebody fairly high up or senior in the Ripple company was speaking about its product, obviously as it would, but where it would benefit other companies. One of the companies it did speak about was Amazon, and I'm not going to obviously put this in the title because I don't really have much in terms of information, but I will definitely put it into the description once I find the article. And the fact that why are people from XRP or Ripple talking about Amazon? Is it because they're working on something imminently? Was it something they dropped by accident into the conversation? Should have been speaking about it? And it similar goes back to with Tim Draper speaking about Starbucks and a while ago, and obviously we had the news about Backton using Bitcoin in Starbucks. Again, something very interesting. I'm very interested by this topic. I'm very interested by XRP news, especially with working with companies such as Amazon. So I'll leave it at that. I really wanted to find this article and talk about it, but maybe if I can find the article, I'll talk about it in depth in the next video. But thank you very much for listening. Thank you for people who've watched my videos and liked my videos. I really, really, really appreciate the support. And we'll see you on the next video. Goodbye.